Saturday Night Live returned to politics for this week's cold open after a one-episode Domingo-induced break, parodying a New York City mayoral debate between Zohran Mamdani, Curtis Sliwa, and Andrew Cuomo. Ramy Youssef stepped in as Democratic frontrunner Mamdani, Shane Gillis portrayed Republican contender Sliwa, and host Miles Teller played independent candidate Cuomo. The sketch opened with Youssef's Mamdani introducing himself to voters. "I'm ready to spend the next hour hearing my opponents pronounce my name in ways you couldn't begin to imagine before," flashing a too-wide grin that physically hurts my face. Debate quickly descended into a stream of punchlines and New York in-jokes. There was a bagel order lightning round. Youssef's Mamdani, "I'd like the person serving me that bagel to be paid a living wage," a cameo from an overeager Eric Adams. And faux sponsors like bike lanes and Hudson Yards, but it wouldn't be a political cold open without Donald Trump, and true to form, James Austin Johnson's Trump ultimately barged in declaring, "It's me," and insisting the election was really about him. Trump mocked each of the candidates, teasing Sliwa's Emily in Paris, had calling Mamdani too young to lead, and boasting about his perfect cognitive test before breaking into the music of the night from the Phantom of the Opera and leading the group in the signature Closer. Live from New York, it's Saturday night. With New York City's general election set for this Tuesday, frontrunner Mamdani's progressive platform has drawn headlines far beyond the 5 boroughs, and yes, has caught Donald Trump's attention. The president recently blasted Mamdani as a 100% communist lunatic on social media, framing the race as a referendum on the city's political identity just days before voters head to the polls. Youssef and Gillis are no strangers to Studio 8H. Youssef previously hosted in season 49, while Gillis, briefly hired and dismissed as a cast member before ever appearing on air, has gone on to host twice, in seasons 49 and 50. After a one-week hiatus fueled by the global phenomenon of Bad Bunny's musical takeover, Saturday Night Live returned to its political comfort zone with a biting and absurdly local cold open, zeroing in on the chaotic final stretch of the New York City mayoral race. This past weekend's sketch, a parody of a fictional debate, served up a triple threat of candidates before inevitably succumbing to the gravitational pull of the city's and the nation's most persistent political specter, Donald J. Trump. The stage in Studio 8H was set not for presidential pontificating, but for the uniquely New York brand of political theater, pitting Democratic Socialist frontrunner Zohran Mamdani, Republican contender Curtis Sliwa, and a surprise independent entry, former Governor Andrew Cuomo, against each other. Stepping into the roles were a trio of performers with their own unique histories with the show. Ramy Youssef returned to host and embody Mamdani. Shane Gillis, a figure whose own SNL story is a saga in itself, portrayed Sliwa, and the evening's actual host, Miles Teller, played a smarmy, comeback-seeking Cuomo. The sketch kicked off with Youssef, as Mamdani, nailing the candidate's earnest yet slightly unnerving intensity. Introducing himself to voters, he immediately leaned into the meta-humor of his challenging name for political opponents. Deadpanning, "I'm ready to spend the next hour hearing my opponents pronounce my name in ways you couldn't begin to imagine." He then flashed a painfully wide, sustained grin directly into the camera, adding, "A smile that physically hurts my face." A perfect encapsulation of the performative nature of modern campaigning. What followed was a rapid-fire descent into a New Yorker's inside joke. The debate format itself was a parody of the city's idiosyncrasies. A bagel order lightning round saw Youssef's Mamdani bypass locks and schmear entirely for a political statement. "I'd like the person serving me that bagel to be paid a living wage." Gillis's Sliwa, never seen without his signature red beret, which the sketch would later have Trump deride as an Emily in Paris hat, leaned into his guardian angel's persona, offering a platform seemingly built entirely on public safety theatrics. Teller's Cuomo, meanwhile, was a masterpiece of delusional self-regard. The former governor, ousted by scandal, played the role of the seasoned statesman desperate to re-enter the arena, his every line dripping with the unearned nostalgia for his COVID-era briefings and a blatant disregard for the reasons he left office. The sketch was peppered with faux sponsors that elicited knowing groans from anyone familiar with the city's current events, from the perpetual political football of bike lanes to the billion-dollar boondoggle of Hudson Yards. A highlight came with a cameo from current Mayor Eric Adams, played with overeager, slightly confused energy by a cast member, who burst in to endorse all three candidates simultaneously, a nod to the mayor's often unpredictable and perplexing political allegations. But in the modern era, no SNL political sketch is truly complete without an appearance from the 45th president. True to form, just as the debate seemed to be winding down, James Austin Johnson's uncanny Donald Trump barged onto the stage declaring, "It's me!" with the triumphant air of a superhero or a supervillain, depending on one's perspective. He immediately recentered the entire New York City election around himself, insisting, "This is about me. You know that. Everything is." Johnson's Trump proceeded to deliver a masterclass in insult comedy, mocking Sliwa's headwear, dismissing Mamdani as too young to lead, and, as always, finding a way to boast about his acing a cognitive test. The absurdity peaked when this segued seamlessly into a rendition of the music of the night from The Phantom of the Opera, Trump's voice wavering between a grandiose tenor and his familiar Long Island-inflected bark. He then, of course, commandeered the show's signature sign-off, leading the entire bewildered ensemble in a chaotic "Live from New York, it's Saturday night." The sketch, while hilarious, was rooted in a very real and contentious political moment. With New York City's general election set for this Tuesday, the actual Zohran Mamdani's progressive platform, which includes pushing for a Green New Deal for NYC and challenging the state's pro-Israel lobby, has indeed drawn headlines far beyond the 5 boroughs. His rise has become a flashpoint in the ongoing battle for the soul of the Democratic Party, both in New York and nationally. And yes, he has caught Donald Trump's attention. Just days before the election, the former president took to his social media platform, Truth Social, to blast Mamdani as a 100% communist lunatic, desperately attempting to frame the local race as a national referendum and a proxy war against the progressive left. SNL's cold open cleverly mirrored this reality, showing how even a hyper-local race is incapable of escaping the long shadow of Trump's media-dominating presence. The casting choices added another rich layer of subtext. Ramy Youssef, whose own comedy often explores the complexities of Muslim and political identity, was a natural fit for Mamdani, bringing a nuanced understanding of the candidate's position. More strikingly, the presence of Shane Gillis was a piece of performance art in itself. Hired as a cast member in 2019 only to be swiftly dismissed after the resurfacing of past podcasts containing racist and homophobic slurs, Gillis has now returned to host the show twice. His portrayal of the conservative Sliwa, while broad, was a reminder of the strange and often contradictory paths of both political and show business careers. In the end, the sketch was more than just a collection of punchlines and impressions. It was a perfect snapshot of New York City politics in 2024, a battle between a progressive movement aiming for structural change, an old-school Republican relying on law and order nostalgia, a disgraced former official seeking redemption, and the inescapable, scene-stealing specter of a former president who refuses to be ignored. Saturday Night Live proved that sometimes the most compelling political theater isn't happening in Washington, D.C., but right in its own backyard.